Hello, scrappy friends, and welcome to Workshop Wednesday. My name is Diane Gutierrez, and I am a Creative Memories advisor located in Southern California. We are working in our Keeping It Simple series. So if you're not familiar, that's where I take the Creative Memories 52 project recipe book and find the ones that I feel are simple and just help us get pages done. Yeah, let me go ahead and flip my screen over and we'll go ahead and get started. And today we are going to work on recipe number 7, and it's on page 18 and 19 in the book if you have the book and you want to follow along. If not, and you want the handout, you know that I always post a handout over on my blog and you can print it off. I actually printed it off this week because there's a little discrepancy between the one here, the printout, the original one. This is what they did the first time when it came out with a collection, and then they redid them for this book. So this way we can get different ideas on how we can use these for any collection, and that's the great thing about these project recipes, right? We can really use them for any collection. When the first project recipe came out, you'll see that paper number 2 is a slightly different cutting than it is over here in the book. The difference is they just have a few more cuts of strips that they then bring into the layout over here, and they're using them up here in between the punch outs, whereas on the one we're doing today, the punch out has a border sticker. So they're giving you the cuts here that you could then use over here instead. So worth going and taking a look. This is the special feature. You know how I like to point out the special feature for the project recipe. That happens to be our special feature for today. It's a double punch out with something in between. But I wanted to point that out at the beginning, so in case you jumped over and got that, you're going to be like, why isn't she cutting that piece? So let's go ahead and look at the rest of the project and see what we have in store for us today. So we need 3 pieces of designer paper. Of course, you can sub out cardstock anywhere you want in here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The first piece, simple cuts, we have 3 straight cuts. We're going to cut 2 strips of 1.5 inch by 12 inch, and then we're going to do another cut at 4.5 inches to yield 2 wider strips that are 4.5 by 12. And then on the second designer paper, now you know what these 2 are used for, right? We're getting so used to these project recipes that we should be able to look at them and know right away this is going to be used for photo mats. If you said photo mats, you're right. And these 2 are going to come right over here, so they're a little bit larger. These are probably going to be photos or journaling, something that you want to stand out. Kind of looks like it's double matted. We need to talk more about that when we get to it. And then some simple strips. Now these 2 strips are right in here. With the third piece of pattern paper, and here's where you can really swap out cardstock if you would like. We're going to do our punching with our border making cartridge. And then again, we have some photo mats right here. I am going to keep all pattern paper today. And in fact, they bring in 2 pieces of pattern paper for the background, and I'm going to do that as well. On this, if you're looking at page 18, it's the brown part that's showing through. So we could also do some wallpapering instead, or welding, if we didn't want to use up all of our paper for the background. So I'm going to be working in my son's school album. We are working on a 4th grade field trip today, and actually it's not really a field trip. It was more like a mommy and me date. We had to go and do our own field trip. I think it was probably for extra credit. So I bought this Wide Open Places collection when I started working on my girls' school albums, and knowing that I'd had to do my son's as well, because in 3rd and 4th grade, they probably 5th grade as well, they did a lot of kind of talking about history when it comes to settlers. And I just felt like this was really spot on. This collection was spot on for a lot of different activities that they did related to their 4th grade and third grade as well activities. So I've used this before in his album, so it's going to fit in really nicely. But that's how I choose my paper, kind of like what is the mood that I feel like, what kind of takes me back to that experience and brings back the experience, and hopefully he'll feel that too when he's looking at the pages. This is no longer available, but it had two different ones. It had the regular designer paper and then a textured pack. I probably have a little bit of everything because I'm getting down to the wire of this. In fact, this might be my last full layout with this collection because I am bringing in 2 pieces of this gray for my background. And then these are my 3 pieces that I'm going to cut today. Have this, I think it's supposed to be like a leathery feel to it. The back side is hay. I'm not going to use that side at all. In fact, if you notice in our recipe today, we're not using the back side of anything. Now you certainly could if you wanted to, because my next piece is this yellow one with some little dots design on it. I love this shade, but I also liked the back side is really kind of gives me that mood of where we are on this field trip. But I'm going to start with yellow and then see if I want to change my mind with the back side as well, because that's pretty nice. And then this one I believe is like a jean material. This came from the texture pack. The back side is jeans. I don't want to use any of that for today, but I think this is going to be that paper number 3 that we're going to border punch and have some photo mats. So I think it's going to pull in really nicely. And that's kind of how I decide if I'm going to use cardstock for the last piece or not, is what I want it to do on the page. And here I just need a pop of blue. I really want to bring some more blue in with my photos. So the field trip, or the mommy and me play date, was to the missions, the California missions. It's what they study in 4th grade. Like I said, this was like extra credit. They didn't go as a class. So if we went, they would get some kind of credit. I don't remember. But anyway, this is him. He had a lot of fun. I had some other photos where he's just totally posing, and I'm like, oh my goodness, he must have been in heaven, just mom and a camera. And I think he took some of these other photos too, if I remember correctly. I have a few other photos of the actual inside portions of the mission, and I cut all those down to 3x4s, or printed those. So I printed them like that. So you can see why I kind of wanted to get some blue in here. He's wearing blue. My photos have some blue in them, so I really feel like that little pop of blue will add. First piece we want to cut, piece number 1, is those simple cuts again. 2 strips that are 1.5 by 12 inches, and we need 2 of those, 1 for each side of the layout. And then the last cut is at 4.5 inches, and that's going to yield 2 strips that are 4.5 by 12 inches. Okay. And now on this piece, we have to do a couple strips. This one is the 3/4 of an inch by 12 inch strips. We need 2 of these, 1 for each side of the layout. And then the other 2 are used for photo mats. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut those. I need to do that at 6.5 inches. Then I'm going to turn it and go to 4.5 inches. One of my photos might be a little bit smaller, so I'll have to maybe come back and trim it up, but I'm going to look at that when I get to it. So these are the pieces that we're moving into our layout. This one we're actually going to do some punching first. I'm going to punch first and then cut out my mats. And like I said, I'm using Geometric Gems is the border cartridge I chose. I feel like there's a lot of options here. They used double rickrack, which is one of my ultimate favorites. That's no longer available, but I chose Geometric Gem because what we punch out reminds me so much of double rickrack. It punches 2 rows, and that's pretty unique. So I like that a lot about this punch. Sample that I have on my website, they used double fan, I believe that's called, and they had to punch out, and they punched it out, and then they turned them around and to touch each other. So options, there's a lot of options with this. So I need, it looks like 4 strips. We're going to cut them down. And then with this piece, these are going to be the vertical, these are going to be the mats for the vertical photos that run down the center of the page. So these mats need to be 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the background because I told you that a lot of it gets covered up. And so if you want to take the time to save paper, then you're going to see how that matters. So we're starting with the gray, and then we're bringing in this brown leathery look. And this goes, we have the 1 1/2 by 12-inch strip off to the edge of both sides. And then we take the 4 1/2-inch strips and we're going to put it right here at the inseam like that. So far you can see how much we've already covered up. So I think if I was going to bring in something else, I'd probably bring in some white inserts and use it for wallpapering, because this section here is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches, about 5 inches. Yeah, something like that. I probably would cut about a 5 1/2-inch piece, so I would have some overlapping a little bit. So anyway, I want to make sure I point that out because I'm still going to be covering up a lot more now. So then I'm going to take the yellow 3/4-inch strip and put that off to the side here. These are photo mats and they go like this. You can see a lot of it does get covered up, and even if you look closely at the sample here in the book, they used, this was a denim revival collection, and you can see it's the brown strip here, but then they even came back in with another cut here. It's not listed anywhere in the directions or on the cutting guide. They must have come back in with a 4th piece of paper and did kind of a double mat here. I checked, I have this collection. There's no paper that has a border at the top and a border at the bottom. I think I measured what that would be. Oh, you know what? It's probably 7 by 5. That's what I think I remember. A 7 by 5 piece would go right here. Then you're only showing a very small strip of your background. You could see, I don't know, I probably wouldn't use a whole background if it's just that 2 little sections showing. I think we all have to decide where we want to save time scrapbooking. So for today, I'm going to just lay it all out like this. We have these photo mats are going to go right in here, kind of tone down that brown a little bit. I like that brown. It kind of gives me that leathery look of some of the things that we saw. So my photos are going to go like this. Let's go ahead and put these, actually, let's see, I want to swap this around, and then this one will go down here. Now for here, I ran out of like vertical photos that I wanted to use. So I have 2 photos. This one is just a map that shows all the different California missions. And I probably need to trim the photos a little bit more. Start with that and see, there they fit much better. And I have a little bit of space between them. This photo, I like that it's horizontal. Couldn't change it to be vertical. So I'm gonna change it on my layout instead. So I'm going to do something like that. See, now I'm looking at this thinking right away, I need to bring in something else. My photo is not quite a 4 by 6 either, so I do need to trim down that first mat and then maybe bring in something else behind it. Pop this photo right off. And I think also because I had yellow on yellow and I didn't really care for that. So what they did here is, I believe that's about 7 inches. They did a row up on top and a row underneath. Same thing down here. Yeah, 6 inches should be good. Let's try one. And then this would get tucked under. Any pieces that are still hanging over, I'll tuck under. So yeah, 6 inches worked good. I like the ornateness of the geometric gems. I feel like it goes kind of well with some of the items that we saw while we were there. Okay, let me go ahead and cut this one up. Okay, now let's look at these photos, and I'll tell you my plan here is I have a lot of little photos and I still need to incorporate some journaling. Now when I bought this collection, I bought just the one paper pack and the digital kit while it was available. I didn't buy anything else. I didn't buy stickers or anything. So I'm gonna have to pull in my stash today for sure. But I did buy the digital art kit, so I went in and I printed a mat. I had the mat pack and I printed one off on a mat card to make a mat card. And I don't know why I ended up with a white border, but I'm okay with that. And I'm gonna put that right here. but I still want those 4 photos on. So I'm going to bring in a vertical 4x6 peekaboo pocket and put them in here so that he can flip it up and he'll be able to see the different photos that he took. I might come back in and put a little cardstock or something behind these and trim them down a little more. Right now they are just 3x4s. Like I'm getting 4 photos in one area, and it'll go like this, and I put those ones upside down. I won't bug you with that and change it right now. I will get that all changed up. So then the peekaboo pocket will go like this, and when he flips it up, the journaling will be right there. So that's actually the page layout as designed on the project recipe. What I liked about this recipe is you can be done with this right like that if that's all you wanted to do, but there's just little spots of embellishing. And now I love embellishing, but what I liked it is because those borders really kind of already add a lot. So there's just a little touches here and there. So they have a little embellishment cluster at the top over here, a couple stickers down here, and then they embellished on the mat card. Now mine's underneath, so if I embellish, it has to come off to the side a little bit, so we'll have to look at that. So I did go into my stash to look for some border stickers, and I found a few things. I brought a bunch so I can kind of see. I have a bunch of these just plain old stripes, or strips of plain, just a plain color. I was thinking blue, but I think this is not the right shade of blue. I really like these. These are old CM, and I really like this one right here. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. Kind of bring in some of the red, and it will go like this. Yeah, it's a nice little detail. I'll do the same thing on the other page, but I will finish this up and post it on Facebook, and you can take a look over there how it comes out. Now the last thing that they had before getting to embellishment is they brought in another border sticker over here. So on the sample in the book, it comes right down here in between the 2 pieces. And on the sample online, I just wanted to show because they are different. And then they put the border sticker right to the edge. So that would be right here. So it really depends on what you have and what you want to use. I can come back in with one of my other strips if I wanted to, but I also brought in, maybe I want to use another border punch instead. So I brought in this one, the square link, and what I do when I'm planning a page is I don't know, I have samples of these. I keep them in my fill and file binder, and so I could just bring in my sample and see if I like it. So I thought maybe right over here, that one's black, and then this one is navy. Kind of bring in that navy again. I'm just wondering if it's going to be too much with my punch that I already have on there. So I like the geometric gems. Okay, so that's one option. The second option would be to bring in another border sticker, and all I have is, and it doesn't need anything, that could be another option as well. I have red and brown. Let's try the brown one. The idea would be to come right in here. And in fact, I could do one red and one brown. I like that. I think I like that better than the punch. I think the punch, and I really thought I have paper here and everything. I thought I was gonna punch that. And I could put it right next to it. I like that. Simple little detail that doesn't, take away from my photos or my page. So there we go. I'll do the same thing over here. Again, you'll see the finished layout on Facebook. The last thing is a few little embellishments. So I already mentioned that I had to dip into my stash for these, and I just did not have any thing in my stash either that really went for missions. I mean, I could have brought in like my compass punch, and I might still do that, we'll see. But things like that, I just kind of went for some vintagey looking items, and I know the items I picked probably are definitely not the same decade or era of these photos, but it's gonna work. I happen to have a few things with this collection already because I know I've used it for my daughter's album too. So I already had this little pen and writing thing here, so I thought, well, that would work, and this circle was already cut, so why not? So I'm scooting the photo up just a little. So I'm going to bring in some of these. I think what I'm looking at here is this little Looks almost like a wine barrel. And so what they did, okay, so on the layout, they did up here, I moved mine down. So I think what I'll do is maybe here and then maybe just up here a little. So let's go ahead and scoot that down. And I might need, I'll probably tap it right here onto the photo mat. It'll have plenty of room because it's a little bit larger, so it'll be fine. And because I don't have another cluster base. Again, some more vintage looking writing utensils. Maybe just do a little something like that. I did like the glasses, and I even like the trunk. Maybe the trunk could kind of serve as a cluster base. These are vintage too. Let's see. 1997. My son wasn't even born. Yeah, I'm going to tuck this one behind, and that'll kind of be the little bit of a cluster base and make sure all those kind of touch. And then why not use this one completely, bring in the little glasses. I probably put these over here. Well, they're not really going to show up that well. Let's put them right there and see if we like it. There we go. I got that whole sheet used because if I don't use it here, I will move them up there. I do like the butterfly because I have a little dragonfly on that one. You can make it fly off some direction, maybe that direction. There we go. And I'm not sure. I'd like this only because it's the right color. I mean, I like it because it's a well, like a pumping well, but I know that they didn't have that. So it's just popping out a little bit. There we go. Oh, it kind of lifts up those glasses too off that yellow. In fact, I might come back in and pop that up with a little bit of foam to really make it pop off as well. I like it. It's very mellow as far as the embellishing. I'm going to let those borders kind of do their work and don't want to add too much more because then I'm not really keeping it simple. And also I don't want to take away too much more focus from my photos. That's my page. I will get everything adhered down and in place and post a photo over on Facebook. Anyway, thanks again for joining me, and I hope that y'all get some time in your scrap room. And until next week, take care, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye.